As diverse as the landscapes of our world are the people who inhabit them. The appearance, language and culture of indigenous peoples differ depending on their environment. But there is one thing the people in all of these places have in common. Their knowledge and age-old traditions are being threatened by the influence of the West. Tobias lives in East Greenland. Modern life has already completely taken hold in his hometown. There are few remnants of the rich Inuit culture that once thrived here. Passan's home is the tropical paradise of Yap, far from the mainland. Here, traditions are honored and preserved, but the culture and habitat of the islanders are being threatened by external influences. Dario is Yanomami. His people live in the Brazilian rainforest. Illegal gold mining within Yanomami territory is threatening the people and the environment. Like his father, Dario has taken up the fight against an extremely powerful opponent. In the tropical rainforest of the state of Roraima, near the border with Venezuela, lives one of the largest indigenous peoples of Brazil. The Yanomami. Many things here have not changed for generations. The forest provides the people with food, and the shamans heal with the help of the forest spirits and ancient knowledge. But just like the shrinking jungles of the largest rainforest on Earth, this knowledge is in danger of being lost. Dario Kopenawa's family lives here, in the village of Watoriki, in the middle of the forest. Today, a 1.5-hour flight separates Dario from his former home, his village, his family, and his friends. Dario was born and raised here, but he has spent years in the city, in the world of the white man. Guns are seldom used here when hunting for toucans, howler or spider monkeys. Instead, the Yanomami use proven traditional weaponry from the jungle. Unlike his childhood friends, Dario knows both worlds.
Onde eu era criança, né? Eu era jovem, aí eu andava lá e andando no mato, matando os pássaros, né? Aí eu fico muito assim, saudade, fico à vontade de voltar lá.
Dario has lived in Boa Vista since he was 14. At first, he was interested in the city and the lifestyle of the Nape, stranger or enemy in the language of the Yanomami.
É muito esquisito pra mim, né? Porque eu nasci na floresta. Lá na floresta é outra coisa, lá é outra realidade também. Lá tem um som na natureza, tem um paisagem, tem um som dos animais e a convivência é totalmente diferente. Aqui na cidade também a linguagem, a cultura é diferente também. É muito difícil para viver aqui na cidade, né? É cheio de perturbação, cheio de problema. Dois mundos são diferentes.
Boa Vista is located in the Brazilian state of Roraima, south of the Venezuelan border. The city has gold to thank for its existence. Gold which is illegally mined in the natural home of the Yanomami. Today, this city at the edge of the jungle has 250,000 residents. Here, you do not find favelas, the huge shanty towns found in other Brazilian cities. There is still poverty though, and indigenous people in particular have little chance of finding a good life. Virtually no white would give an Indio a job. There's no way for them to preserve their culture here. Even when the former forest dwellers try to assimilate themselves, they are segregated. Dario is the head of Hutukara, a Yanomami organization aiming to protect their territory and their culture.
Aí eu comecei a conhecer cada vez mais a cidade aqui. E 2004, aí começa a funcionar a Hutukara, a Associação Yanomami. Aí todos os lideranças, aproximadamente 180 Yanomami participaram na Assembleia da Hutukara. Aí eles me elegeram como diretor da Hutukara, Associação Yanomami.
The headquarters of Hutukara is located in a residential area not far from the city center.
Mesma coisa. Pata e bada é a mesma coisa. Pronúncia é diferente, mas a grafia ela tem que ser feita com P e T. Por isso que não tem.
The people who work at the clinics in the Yanomami territory learn the Yanomami language here.
Wisha. Winter.
From here, measures aimed at supporting healthcare and education are planned and coordinated. Members of other indigenous groups can stay here during their visits to Boa Vista. On the banks of the Rio Branco, just as much on the edge of the city as on the edge of the jungle, they can find refuge during their uncertain journey into the future. Dario is in frequent contact with his family back home, but he rarely makes it back there. He's decided to base his life here in order to fight for the rights of his people. The Yanomami still live by their traditions, but in the far north, another indigenous people have started to strike a new path. Yanomami means person, just like the word Inuit. Today, the people of Tasila live in modern houses. Contrary to the popular stereotype, you'll not find any turf huts or igloos here. Very few Inuit in East Greenland are familiar with the hard lives of their ancestors through their own personal experience. Dogs have always played a crucial role in the daily fight for survival. Not just for transportation, but also as guard dogs. They ate food waste, served as playmates for the children, and were an important status symbol. Today, very few families own a sled or the pack of Greenland dogs needed to pull it. It takes a lot of time and money to maintain a pack this size. Instead, people now use motorized transport, be it by land or by sea. Tobias is Inuit and lives in Tasila. Today, he's on his way to a seal hunt with his friend Inuk. One might think that here in Greenland, amidst the never-ending ice, time stands still. But progress and technology have long since taken hold in this remote region. Anyone looking for the original Inuit culture may leave disappointed. Tobias's isolated hut is the starting point for hunts on the ice. In the past, many people lived from hunting. Inuit men took pride in being hunters. But hunting in Greenland is extremely hard work, and not everyone is cut out for it. It's a hard life full of danger. Without help, people would not have been able to survive here amidst the ice. Inuit hunters have always relied on their four-legged friends. No other domesticated animal can cope with the extreme conditions here as well as the Greenland dogs. A seal hunt can sometimes last an entire day. Seals are quite clumsy on land, but are fast when it comes to slipping into the nearest ice hole to escape predators. The goal is to get the seal before it can slip back into the ice-cold water. Tobias goes seal hunting often to provide meat for his dogs. But in this cold desert, there are other prey to get a hunter's heart racing. But the meat is not the only part of an animal that is valuable. Tobias could live well from selling seal furs. There's no lack of seals, he says, but for several decades, there's been another problem.
Tamanidi udivit agi chatter simapu amuina terismapu ugiatani agirado ugiatani amuina kisetamata apanami agirapu tamatimi takwat Queen Pisikut aganusatuinagan.
In the past, many Inuit who are now unemployed lived from selling seal fur. The fact that seal hunting is allowed, but the fur trade is banned, has made hunting an unattractive occupation for most people. Out here on the ice, is where Tobias and Enoch are closest to the old days. Here, the rules have stayed the same since the beginning of time, and Tobias is confident that he will continue to practice his occupation.
Nunetinni piniartoonga chinnaangira ukiituttiittu qatsiinerpu. Piniartoqartuaannatsao niilartittugunnaqi. Piniartoqartuaannatsao navianartilinnaginnaqi. Piniartoonga chinnaangira.
In any case, there are few alternatives to this work here. Many of the former hunters of Tasila rely on government assistance today. For these people, unemployment and a lack of prospects go hand in hand. The younger generation knows little about its cultural heritage. The temptations of modern times and the role models that go with them are the same as those in Europe and North America. Like most people, Tobias no longer uses the traditional dog sled to travel to the tiny supermarket in Tasila. Instead, he prefers to use high tech from Japan to cover the short distance. Food, which used to come from the immediate vicinity, more often than not, now comes from a can and from the ice of the freezer. The range of goods sold here is not much different to that of a Western supermarket, but Tobias still prefers the meat he hunts himself.
Qirnama kararimi pimangitsiva qatunami pimariga idaanara qirnatidara mamava tuunami kararimi kisiat niinavitsinnaangidaat piniaayankini.
The meat from the seals was only enough to feed the dogs, so today the family eats a ready-made meal. Tobias receives a call while he's waiting for dinner. A group of tourists wants to book a tour with the traditional dog sled. More and more people are coming to explore the icy expanses of Greenland. Tobias will continue to venture out onto the ice to hunt as long as he's able to. His dogs and his sled connect him with his ancestral heritage and secure income for his family. He hopes that one day his children will continue his business. But it's doubtful whether the next generation will appreciate the taste of seal meat. In any case, they'll no longer lead a lifestyle like that of their ancestors. Elsewhere, people are trying to preserve just that. A major part of Dario Kopenawa's work consists of traveling. The head of the indigenous organization, Hutakara, is on his way to an on-site inspection. He's traveling into the government-protected territory of the Yanomami. The Perimetral Norte, a road that was built in the 1970s and was later closed for the most part. long stretches of the road pass through the land of the Yanomami, but the Brazilian government is planning to reopen the Perimetral Norte and even to resume its expansion. There are many contradictions in Brazil today. For example, there are still huge cattle ranches located in cleared forest areas on Yanomami land.
Já temos vários problemas, vários de garimpeiros, os fazendeiros e mineração e instalações hidrelétricas na terra Yanomami. Está acontecendo muito isso. Somos ameaçados aqui, principalmente a floresta está ameaçada. Queremos apoio das internacionais, porque nosso governo não quer ajudar a população indígena do Brasil. Por isso nós estamos continuando sofrendo, continuando lutando, continuando retificando, continuando denunciando.
Emilio Poluto's cattle ranch begins several kilometers inside Yanomami territory and stretches over many hectares. It's been clear for a long time that the land must be returned to the Yanomami. The farmer is supposed to receive compensation from the government. When a herd of horses gets loose and the vaqueros try to round up the animals again, there's a unique encounter. Never before have the two parties had direct contact with one another. For the first time, Dario sees the so-called intruder who's been living on his land for years.
Porque quando fala invasor, eu fico muito triste. Você acha que o meu filho vai achar bom ler o jornal e chamar o pai dele de invasor? Então, tanto nós como vocês somos vítimas desse governo.
Somos cidadãos
não esse governo que está aqui, porque eles não querem pagar o valor justo. Entende? E eles mesmos fizeram um levantamento em 2008 e acharam um valor lá que eu concordo. Não tem um problema de espaço. É um negócio que o Brasil tem muita terra. Tá bom.
There are legal ordinances guaranteeing the return of these areas to the Yanomami, but the negotiations have been dragging on for decades now. In the meantime, the Brazilian government has started pursuing some ambitious goals. It wants to build 5 hydropower plants on the Rio Branco, very close to the Yanomami land, but right on the land of other indigenous people. According to the Brazilian constitution, nothing may be built on indigenous territory, and these areas may not be flooded either. The government is now considering amending this article of the constitution. Dario meets with one of the non-indigenous fishermen in order to hear what he has to say about the government's plans.
A barragem, isso aí vai afetar muita coisa aí. Pelo menos esses moradores ribeirinhos que tem aí, vai tudo vai pro fundo aí, vai se mudar tudo.
Certo. Então o senhor é a favor ou o senhor é contra?
Não, eu sou contra isso aí.
A minha maior preocupação aqui, porque a terra Yanomami fica próximo daqui, né? Aí mais milhões os árvores vai fundar e os bichos também vai prejudicar muito a nosso território, limite do território Yanomami. Quem são as autoridades, são grandes, né? Eles não querem saber.
Estão preocupados só com ele mesmo, rapaz. Não se preocupe com ninguém, não.
If the indigenous people and the other affected parties cannot convince the government to abandon its plans, large parts of the region will be doomed, literally washed away by the floods. On the other side of the world, another group of people may well face drastic changes to their way of life in the near future. At the moment, this tropical paradise shows little sign of imminent crisis. There are no hotels or holiday resorts along the island's picturesque beaches. Not yet, anyway. Colonia has a population of just under 3,200 and is the capital of Yap, a group of islands in the Federated States of Micronesia. Since their first contact with the so-called Western world, the Yapese have repeatedly watched as people from far-off regions of the world have come here and left again. Plans to exploit local resources such as palm oil have failed because of the distances to the nearest commercial harbours. What's remained for the Yapese are their traditions and their knowledge of the lifestyle of the visitors. 40 kilometers further north, the islands still show their traditional side. The official currency here is the rai, stone money, round stones based on the shape of the moon. Rai stones are still used to pay for property, weddings, and funerals. The money changes owners, but its place in the stone bank stays the same. In the 70-person village of Toror, one of the oldest settlements on Yap, dollars are also used sometimes. Here, at the only shop 4 kilometers around, the selection is limited. Pasan, who has spent his whole life here, buys Western consumer goods, such as coffee and cigarettes. Pasan is highly respected in the village community and dedicates his time to a variety of different tasks. He's a navigator, a leader of the traditional dances, and a healer. He's familiar with over 300 medicinal plants and their areas of application. He finds the things he needs in the mangroves along the coast and in the island's largely unspoilt jungles. The forest is his pharmacy, and it really does contain herbs that can heal most of the illnesses that occur here.
These flowers are used for lung treatment. They're very effective. And in collecting local medicine, there are signs you look for too. If you're looking for the right flower for treatment of the lung, if you find the flower, look for the ants. If there's plenty ants, then the right chemical are in the flowers. And if there's less ants, then less of that chemical that you want to have in the flower.
What is now increasingly being used as an alternative or in combination with conventional medicine in the industrialized nations has been handed down for generations in Yap.
The main differences between Western medicine and Yap medicine is when we treat or when we receive treatment locally, it doesn't involve money. It's an understanding that we want to help each other best possible we could. And second is the availability of the medicine, which are plants, are available in our surroundings. We don't order those or pay for those also.
Jorang is a young man with a big goal. He wants to become a navigator on one of the traditional Yapese outrigger canoes. He's on his way to Pineapple Island to meet his friend and mentor, Pazan. The tradition of the Yapese allows people to express their wishes to a healer such as Pazan, who's an expert in white magic. A ritual is performed to aid in the fulfillment of the wish. This does not require payment in the conventional Western sense, but Jorang does bring gifts along with him to this all-important meeting. Betel nut, which is omnipresent here and is chewed by young and old from morning to night, and another currency that is still in use along with the heavy stone money. Ya, shell money. It's a ritual of good wishes. The green coconut stands for purity. Its milk is intended to cleanse Chorang. Turmeric and various mysterious herbs are burned. The smoke is inhaled. The application of the ashes brings impurities of the spirit to light and drives them away. While reciting the wish of his charge, Pazan fastens loops made of young palm leaves to Chorang. This allows the spirit of the ritual to accompany him. The long path to becoming a navigator is also a spiritual journey. On Yap, food is largely procured using the methods of the people's ancestors. Pazan and his friends are meeting in the Falu, the traditional men's house, on the evening before a planned fishing expedition. In Yapese mythology, the sea is a goddess, a very jealous goddess. In order to please her and not send her into a rage, the men do not spend the night with their wives, but instead spend it together here. This gives them time to repair the harpoons and to discuss the latest events. Finally, at 6 o'clock in the morning, the men set off. Chorang is allowed to man the rudder for the first time today. The traditional canoes can be more than 100 years old and are perfectly suited for quickly reaching the best fishing grounds, often within the coral reef. Below the water's surface is a world teeming with an amazing variety of plant and animal life. Many things are likely still the same as they were in the days of the current islanders' ancestors. Here, reef sharks and majestic manta rays engage in a little tryst. Meanwhile, Pazan and his crew make their final preparations. Unfazed by the apparent danger, they begin the hunt. The men are extremely accurate with the self-made harpoons. And so, their fishing expeditions are usually successful. This gives a whole new, healthy meaning to the term fast food. A wide variety of clams and fish is served. People here appreciate what they have in the sea.
We, the people of Yap, are very happy that we have the ocean that provides us food, such as fish, clams, crabs, and also the land that produces taro, breadfruit, coconuts, yams. We'll be very happy So we feel like living in the paradise. It's a very good place.
While the men are still at sea, the women work in the jungle. On Yap, the women are responsible for the field work. Agatha, Paula, and Charlene are in their taro field near the village. Although these gardens are grown as monocultures, they are planted with different types of crops every few years. Taro has always been a staple of the Yapese diet. Taro can be grilled, boiled, or baked. Just one of the roots, which can weigh up to 4 kilograms, produces a meal for an entire family. The traditional houses are built by the men. The women weave the roofs using palm leaves. Due to the high humidity, the roofs have to be replaced often. Pazan's house is always open to visitors. It's a place of encounter. Some of the men and women who come here have been adopted by Pazan according to the Yapese tradition. The people who gather here for a sumptuous meal seem satisfied.
Ku buliol no maun kolak sira ku ga narma ko ban a gon tabe wa ma ku nan eritin plastic either way ku un butu school ma nan eritin ni kanda ko na falanga plastic either way.
As idyllic as this island paradise seems, it's also facing a significant threat. The ETG investment group from China already has Yap on its business radar. They want to create a holiday resort here for the rising Chinese middle class. Many Yapese are skeptical about these plans.
The future for the younger generations of Yap is not very clear, especially now when a lot of foreign investors want to come to Yap and invest, building big businesses here in Yap, big hotels, big resorts, a lot of environmental impacts too. And this will include shaping the reef and the beach to fit whatever recreational they have, activities they may have to support the tourism industry. And so this, I do not know what will happen to the future generations of Yap.
Wellness hotels, golf courses and casinos are scheduled to be built soon, less than a kilometre away from Pazan's village. The master plan also calls for the reef to be blasted in several places in order to allow tourist ferries to pass through. It's difficult to predict how severe the effects will be on the ecosystem of the islands. It's also unclear how such a drastic intrusion will impact the traditions of the Yapese. Today, people here are once again aware of their culture.
For a while, villages stopped practicing dances. They stopped performing. And now they've gone back to dancing. To preserve a culture, another one is tourism, make a little bit more money. So it's a mix of the new and the old, and we're trying to cling on that.
Many of the dances live on in their original form. By passing these dances on to the next generation, the Yapese are keeping their traditions alive. Pazan leads the dance, a bamboo stick dance in honor of the ancestors. This rhythmic ritual is the conclusion of a 3-part cycle. Bamboo wood was chosen because of its special sound. Although sticks are beaten against one another here, this is not a war dance. The Yapese maintain their ancient traditions. However, the resistance to the plans of Chinese investors is only gradually taking shape. The Yanomami in Brazil know only too well about threats to their habitat. Dario Kopenawa sees himself as a warrior of the forest. He's left Boa Vista and is on his way into the jungle. A gathering organized by Dario is being held in the village of Papiu. Dario's father, Dario Kopenawa, is also on his way there. Davi is a shaman and is the charismatic leader of more than 20,000 Yanomami. 40 years ago, he took up the fight for the Yanomami's land. Since then, he's been traveling to distant countries and talking with the heads of state there in order to make people aware of the threats facing the habitats of indigenous peoples. For Davi and Dario Kopenawa, the networking within their own ranks is just as important as the measures that they implement in the outside world. The Hutukara organization often hosts meetings that are attended by clans from various regions that are often located very far away. Starting in the late 1980s, Papiu was the center of gold mining here. 40,000 people, most of them white gold miners, lived in the middle of the rainforest. Their houses were torn down, but illegal gold miners are still located in the area. Davi and Dario want to meet at the clinic next to the airstrip. There are nearly 40 clinics like this in Yanomami territory. They were built by the government, but the conditions here are questionable. Places like these require the presence of Dario and his father. Many years ago, Davi was witness to the events that later led to the construction of such clinics.
Quando eu cresci, aí eu vi o homem branco chegando na nossa comunidade. Depois o homem chegou, estragou a nossa costume, estragou a nossa saúde, aí enfraqueceu. Por quê? Por que enfraqueceu? Porque o meu povo adoeceu. Adoeceu porque o homem branco vem trazendo a doença para o corpo. Ele não vem trazer assim com caixa não, mas ele vem atrás. Aonde o homem branco vai, a doença vem também.
Countless Yanomami died of diseases that were introduced by missionaries and gold miners. Malaria, measles, and the flu. And the fight against these diseases still has not been won today. Dario and Davi have stopped in the jungle on their way to the village of Papiu. Shortly before arriving at their destination, they paint themselves in order to pay tribute to the importance of the meeting and to show their respect to their hosts. The calls signal the arrival of the leader of the Yanomami. Davi has been away for several months and is happy to be back home. More than 200 Yanomami from various clans and regions are gathering here. They'll spend 3 days here. The agenda for the Hutukara meeting includes important issues such as healthcare and education, but also the threat to the Yanomami culture and their territory. The government preaches about the protection of the Yanomami territory, but in reality, it has plans to reopen the Perimetral Norte Road. If that happens, the problems of the city will once again be brought into the land of the Yanomami. Davi wants to preserve their traditional way of life in the land of his ancestors. He knows that along with support from outside, he also needs the backing of the Yanomami themselves. Davi has long dedicated his life to saving his people.
A luta minha que nasceu foi em 1975, que eu comecei a reclamar, comecei a lutar, comecei a fazer reunião, comecei a participar da reunião dos outros, Macuxi, Opixana, e que não índio, foi para Manaus, Brasília, São Paulo, e assim indo. A terra é prioridade para nós tudo. Não é só para mim não, é tudo. Para nossos filhos, para nossos netos. O futuro adiante, eles querem.
Dario Kopenawa's concerns go far beyond the present, the borders of the Yanomami territory and the welfare of his own people.
A futuro adiante, o que nossos filhos vai precisar? Ele vai precisar olhar a floresta do mundo vivo e que em pé. Então, assim que nossos filhos, cada nós temos filho, cada nós temos família. Eu não conheço sua terra, não conheço sua casa, eu não conheço sua tribo. Cada nós temos pensamento, pensar e sentir. Sentir, depois começar a pensar, poxa, é mesmo, nós estamos errados. Nós, brancos, nós estamos errados. Então, essa aqui é a minha palavra que eu estou mandando, que eu não conheço.
The Yanomami still have strength to rebel against the government and the gold miners. They're proud of their identity and their heritage and will continue to maintain traditions and fight for their land. If they lose this battle, it will have far-reaching consequences. The fate of the Yanomami and their territory, like that of other indigenous peoples, is inseparable from the fate of the rest of the world.